Between 1940 and 1945, 10 million young Americans were inducted into military service. They served all over the globe, won World War II, and established the United States as a world power. In later decades, they became known as the Greatest Generation. 416,000 of them gave their lives in this noble effort, including over 88,000 members of the Army Air Corps. Many of those lives were lost in the B-17 bomber. Of the 12,731 B-17s produced, approximately one-third, or 4,145, were destroyed defeating the Axis powers. Harding Vidden was one of the fortunate ones who survived a tour in the B-17. He flew 50 missions at a time when 25 was the norm. Like so many of his generation, he accepted his country's call, left the farm, took aircrew training, and served in combat. On July 7, 2009, a rare opportunity presented itself. One of the few remaining B-17s visited the Fargo Air Museum. Harding was there to view this magnificent 70-year-old aircraft, take a walk down memory lane, and pass on his recollections to family members. And we'll begin now, Harding. Could you give us information about where you were born and who your parents were and when you were born?
I was born in 1922 at Fertile, Minnesota. And my parents are of Norwegian descent. And I grew up there. And when I was 19 years old, I went to California to work for Douglas Aircraft. And when the war came along, I enlisted in the Air Force.
Army Air Corps, I bet.
Army Air Corps at that time,
Yes.
correct, yeah.
Where did you receive your initial training?
Our initial training was, I was a flight engineer, so my first training was in Gulfport, Mississippi in a mechanic school. We went to 9 months of aviation mechanic school.
Okay, when was that?
That would have been in 1942.
1942. And you say
40, yeah.
you say your crew position on the B-17 was where?
I was a flight engineer and top turret gunner. The flight engineer always had a top turret because he was close to where the pilot and co-pilot was.
Sure.
So if you had fuel to transfer, or if you had bombs or the wouldn't close, you'd crawl back in there and crank it up. Well, the B-17 had all electrical systems.
Yes, but there were cranks that could do landing gear and all kinds of things.
Landing gear and the bomb doors.
Okay, okay. So where did you get the aerial gunnery training?
In Nevada. We went to Nevada to do our aerial gunnery. Took our aerial gunnery out of AT-6. We stood in the back seat with a 30 caliber machine gun stuck on the side of the cockpit and fired at a tow target.
Well, that AT-6 had a a swivel seat in the back too, right? It could swing around?
Not these. These 86s didn't. It was a solid seat. So when you stand up, you had a seat belt with straps on it.
Mhm.
Because over the mountain was kind of turbulent. Your feet weren't always on the deck.
So you're shooting at towed targets? Or
Two targets.
how about anything on the ground? Did you ever shoot anything on the ground?
No.
We had a guy in here not so very long ago told us that he was down in Nevada too, but his gunnery practice was shooting at jackrabbits out in the desert.
Oh.
And I can't understand how you could do that. There's a lot of mechanics to aerial gunnery, and I didn't see how he could
No.
learn to shoot.
We did use ride in the back of a pickup with 12-gauge shotguns and shoot skeet. They went around the course and they had, 12 stations where the skeet would come from different places.
Okay, getting back to the towed targets, did you have colored ammunition?
Colored ammunition.
And did you ever get to see the sock itself after it was over with?
No.
So you don't know if you hit it or not?
No.
Did they give you any kind of scores?
No. They ran, that training went through pretty fast. It was just a matter of getting up there and unloading so much ammunition whether you hit it or not.
Okay.
Whereas the bomb sight on the top turret in the B-17, you had two controls, and if you framed the airplane in that frame, well, then you were on target.
Okay.
And that would adjust for your lead and figure out everything for you.
Did you ever crew any of the other positions on the airplane, or just top turret?
No.
That was it. They didn't offer you other positions for training or anything?
Well, no. You could, but actually I flew as engineer all the time.
Okay, good. Well, did you get crewed up and then take the airplane over water?
Pardon?
Did you get a crew put together on the stateside and then take the airplane over?
Yeah, we went to Georgia and picked up a new airplane and flew to South America and flew across to Africa and then flew up we stayed in Africa for a little while, and then when our air base was ready in Italy, we flew up in Italy and flew out of there. That was the 15th Air Force.
At Foggia?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
How did you know Foggia?
Well, I know several guys that flew out of there. There were still some of those B-17 guys left during the Vietnam War. They were all colonels, of course.
Yeah.
And I had some students who flew out of Foggia.
Is that right?
Interesting. Well, so did you ever get up to England then?
No.
You just flew out?
We flew out of Italy, and then we flew over to Russia and set up an air base there and made a couple, 3 bombing runs out of Russia, then came back to Italy. And from then on, they flew from England to Russia because they had more airplanes than we had in the 15th Air Force. They did the shuttle bombing.
And that was Poltava.
The Poltava, yeah.
Okay. How many missions did you fly?
50 missions.
50?
50.
Did you volunteer for the last 25?
No.
Because normally 25 was a
Well, no, in our theater of operations, 50 was the normal. But when you had really tough missions like Poloesti, oil wells, they counted 2.
Okay.
And we had one mission over Memmingen in Germany. We had 26 airplanes, and 14 of them got shot down on that mission. And just about all the airplanes were damaged, just came back. And ours had, between number 3 and 4 engine, a 20 millimeter cannon shell had hit the leading edge, went through the spar, and it was sticking in the self-sealing fuel tank, and it was a dud. It was a dud.
That would have been the end of it.
Oh yeah, because I saw B-17s get hit like that and blow the wing right off.
So these were head-on passes by.
They had so many fighters, they came from head-on and from behind.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, we had 140 empty bunks.
So you said you did go to Ploesti.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't that mostly a B-24 operation or no?
Oh, B-17 too, they had an awful lot of anti-aircraft guns.
So you did high stuff.
Yeah.
See, the B-24s are on the deck.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
No, we generally flew from 23 to 27,000 feet.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the airplane, the interesting thing was that when we got overseas then with our new airplane, they took our new airplane away and gave us an old one. We got the Bad Penny. The Bad Penny had like 100 missions on it, and we flew it. It had, I think, 116. And that's the most missions any B-17 has. And if you ever go to the Air Museum at Boeing in Seattle, there's a painting there of 3 B-17s flying over the Alps with some P-51 fighters, and the Bad Penny is on there.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. Interesting. How about into Germany proper? How many of those missions did you fly? Like, for instance, Schweinfurt or any of that. Were you involved in any of that?
In what?
Schweinfurt, the ball bearing.
Well, I've got a list of it there, but one of those factories we hit was a ball bearing factory.
Okay.
But I don't think it was Schweinfurt. I think it was another town. And we hit several marshalling yards and aerodromes, and yeah, there's a variety of things.
So
there.
when you were flying in combat, you were looking at FW-190s?
Yeah, 190s mainly. Yeah.
Okay. There were still some Messerschmitts around.
But see, we had 190s, and then we had the Focke-Wulfs. What were the Focke?
That was a 190.
190.
And then there was also a twin engine, the ME-110.
We only saw one of those. That was when they first came up. You know, it was a surprise to us. We didn't know they just. And we only saw one of those.
Okay.
Because this was early on before they got them going.
So you were shooting at these guys. Did you ever hit anybody?
You know, there's so many people shooting at something, and you see metal fly off it and stuff, and who hit it, not you really don't know. All you did was, you'd go from one to the other. One thing in the top turret that's kind of hard on your eyes, because you were always looking into the sun. That top turret had the position, to look for fighters, and they'd usually like to come from behind and above.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But with that many 17s in a group, we'd kind of change off, so not everybody was looking into the sun. I'd probably look for 20 minutes, and then I'd talk to another airplane, he'd look for 20 minutes.
Well, so you actually had a radio, a transmit position from the turret.
Oh yeah, we had what they call a throat mic.
Yep.
It was a little thing around like this, and that would communicate with our helmet, or you press to talk,
Mm-hmm.
mic.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty crude compared to what you guys had.
Well, you told me that about being hit once. How about any other hits?
Oh yes.
Well, tell us about that for a little bit.
Well, they kind of happen, not frequently, but if you're flying where there's a lot of flak guns, you might be looking out over your wing, and all of a sudden you see a bunch of holes in the wing that weren't there a little while ago. And when flak hits your airplane, it sounds like somebody took gravel and threw at your car.
Yep.
That's about all you hear.
Yep. Yep. I've heard that sound.
Oh yeah.
Show us what you have with you today. You've got.
Well, this is my helmet. It's a sheepskin lined helmet, and we had sheepskin lined jackets and trousers and boots, because we were up there for anywhere from 3.5 to 8 hours, and it was well below zero.
Sure. And you had a heated electric suit too.
No.
No, you didn't.
Oh, we didn't. They came along later. We were too early.
Okay. Show us your jacket.
And this is my flight jacket, the regular one, and I had it cut down, and my daughter used it when she was taking flight training at UND.
Oh, really? What's she doing now?
She works for FedEx.
Okay.
She's in charge of the corporate planes.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, she's been there for years.
Okay. I've got some photographs here. Why don't you tell me about the people on this one?
Well, it's the crew.
You remember their names?
Oh yes. I can. The pilot was from Fargo, North Dakota. He was Russell Wayne. He was 25 years old. And the co-pilot was from the state of Washington, and he was 23 years old. And the navigator was from Oklahoma, and he was 18 years old. And our bombardier was from Arizona, and he was 22 years old. And the ball turret gunner was 19 years old. He was from Illinois.
I suppose he was a kind of a small guy.
Yeah, he was shorty. You had to be a small guy to get in there. And then myself, top turret gunner, I was 21. And Leon Waldman was the waist gunner. He was 19. He's from New York. And Wesley Morrison was another waist gunner from California. He was 19. And Thomas Burton was the radio operator. And he was from Georgia, and he was 20. And the tail gunner was Thomas Milburn from Texas, and he was 19. A lot of old people there.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. How about, tell us about this picture.
This is kind of my favorite one. We had photographers around there, and out at the Heart Stand one day, this fellow was there taking pictures, and it gives all the crew members, we had all the crew members' names painted on there, and then it's a bomb for every bombing mission.
Okay. And that's Bad Penny.
Yep.
You've got some swastikas painted on there.
Oh yeah.
How did you claim those if everybody was shooting and nobody knew exactly who was getting hit?
Those were painted on. We never shot any. Those were done before. I tell you, the history of that Bad Penny was it flew out of North Africa, and it had a lot of missions because they were short. And I think they were in on the Turkish route when the Germans were leaving North Africa with some of their trimotor planes and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was, after that we never did paint any, swastikas and stuff on there.
Tell us about this picture.
This is just standing by the top turret of the airplane we were assigned to, and I've just got my winter flying pants on, my sheepskin pants and boots. I haven't got my jacket on there.
Okay. Now this next photograph is similar to that one, except there's an additional piece on the bottom. Why don't you tell us about the airplane?
Well, it's just kind of an overview of the airplane, and it shows the metal landing runways we landed on.
PSP.
Yeah, and then the hard stands where we parked them.
Okay. There's a formation fight, and everybody's got their gear down, which is kind of unusual.
We're coming in for a landing. What? Yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't land in wing formation, did you?
No, but you'd count off. They'd peel off and peel off and peel off, and then.
Oh, so you'd give you an opportunity to check everybody's landing gear too, huh?
Well, yeah, not so much as that, but it was. You had a lot of airplanes landing, and they just come in. There was 7 airplanes in each squadron, and 7 squadrons to a bomb group. So you'd 30-second interval to take off, and then to landing you'd have more time. But your whole squadron would line up in a wing formation kind of and let down the landing gear, and then you'd peel off, and they'd count off so they'd have ample time between.
Sure.
If somebody had a flat tire, you wouldn't know. You might have a hole in the tire, and you might have a problem landing.
Did you ever have to crank the gear down?
Oh yeah.
For real?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And it takes a lot of cranks.
Okay.
The worst was really the bomb doors if they wouldn't close, because if a little bit too much oil on there, when the 30 below, that oil is really heavy. And you got to crawl back into Bombay. And you take along a little canister of oxygen that lasts you about 3 minutes. So you crank like everything for 3 minutes. There you go, refill your oxygen bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to keep those bomb doors closed, because if not, there's so much drag, it's hard to keep up with the rest of the formation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. How about the flaps? Did you ever crank those down manually?
No,
Never did.
no. Really, the only things was landing gear and bomb doors, and then if you had damage in the fuel cell, you'd transfer the fuel to one of the other fuel tanks.
I'm looking at a picture now, a bunch of medals, and I see the air medal up in the middle. Why don't you tell us about the rest of these?
Well, these are pretty much, one is a Russian medal for victory in Russia, and the other ones are for North Africa and different, I don't really remember the exact title to them, but it's some letters anyway.
Sure. Tell us about this picture. Is that the same thing as was on your jacket?
Yeah, it's the same that's on there. We had an emblem. We had good artists in our group, and our squadron selected Bugs Bunny, and they painted this on all our jackets, and then on the back of our summer flying jackets, they painted the picture of the B-17 and with the lettering Bad Penny.
When did you finish your tour?
Let's see.
Approximately.
Well, I suppose that would have been in, we went over in April, probably in about last of August. Then we came back and we had a rest leave, and then we went to Amarillo, Texas, and worked in the aviation mechanic school. I was in engine operations, and we were going to be there for a year, and they were going to assign us to a B-29 group to go to the Pacific.
Oh, really?
But then, we never did because the Pacific War was over and we never got there.
Where were you when the bomb went off?
In Amarillo, Texas. At where I was in mechanic school, and we were waiting to get enough B-17s and stuff to, B-29s to form a group then to go to the Pacific. Which I'm glad we didn't do.
Oh, yes. So, what was the mood around among your companions when they heard about the atomic bomb?
They said, "Boy, we're going home."
Okay. So you went back to Fertile?
Oh, yes, yeah.
And what did you do there?
Well, I went back to Fertile and rested for a while. Then I flew with Northwest Airlines for a little while as a flight engineer. And what we did was...
On the 97s? Or are they...
no, well...
On the Boeing?
What they had was... they'd given up all their C-54s, four-engine transport to the military during the war. And then after the war, they got them back again. So they cleaned them up and painted them. And I was on a crew that just went around and retrained pilots to the C-54.
Well, wasn't that wing and engine combination quite similar to the B-17?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
We just, all the engineer did really was sit between the pilot and the co-pilot, and they just shoot landings, and all you do is handle the flap. 10 degrees flap, you give them 10 degrees. 20, you give them 20.
Okay. How long did you do that?
Oh, we did that for probably about 6 months. And then later on, I kind of got tired of that, so I quit and I went back to California and I worked for aircraft factories for a number of years.
Well, it says your current address is Fertile.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
I moved back to Fertile in 1954. That's when our first daughter was born, and we had a farm at Fertile, and nobody else wanted to farm. And I thought, well, that's a good place for the kids to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
So we've stayed there ever since.
Huh. Well, you must have retired from that, or are you still doing it?
Oh no, I'm 87, so I've been retired 25 years.
So what do you do for entertainment and whatnot? You got hobbies and that sort of thing?
Well, I tell you, I did some flying. I belonged to the flying club there. But when I was 77, I quit flying because you can't fool the airplane.
Okay.
But I live on a farm. We got a big farmstead,
Mhm.
you know, several acres, and we've got garden and stuff, and there's all those things to do.
So tell me about your family, your wife and your kids and that sort of thing.
Well, I got 4 daughters, and they're all married and live in different places. And the youngest one is my grandson there, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going for a ride in the B-17, and that's 65 years ago now that I rode the B-17.
Oh, yes.
So that's kind of a milestone there.
Well, are there any other stories you'd like to
No,
share
not.
with us?
I'm really not too much of a storyteller.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any suggestions what he should talk about?
Oh, ask him about maybe a leave that he took.
A week?
Yeah, a leave.
Oh, you took some leave while you were in the service?
Oh, well, yeah, okay. When I had 25 missions in, you usually get a rest leave at 25 missions. So I had 25 missions in, and the guy came over and said, get your bag ready to go, and you're going on a flight to Cairo.
Oh.
So they had, what happened was they had an old B-17 they used for that, and some of the pilots were going to Cairo for a rest leave. So then I went as flight engineer, and the radio operator went along, and we went to Cairo for a week. And we rode camels out to the pyramids and stuff like that, you know.
Good.
Yeah, that was a pretty interesting thing. And then one of the interesting things was really flying gliders here with the Air National Guard out of Fargo. They'd fly them out of Kindred or out of Pembina. And Kindred was really a neat place, you know. I'd go down there on a day when it's absolutely clear, not a cloud in the sky, and you figure you can't fly today. They'd tow you up about 2,000 feet, and you catch an air current, and you'd go right to 8,000 feet, and there'd terminate. And you could fly around, and you know, when you get down to 2,000 feet, pick up another one, and just go right up there again.
Who were some of the people that you associated with out at the Guard?
Oh boy. One of the guys was Kulak, and boy, I just don't remember the name so well. But Colonel Schroeder was probably the guy that started this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd either that or bring it up to Pembina. And Pembina was, it seemed like where the port of entry there's a lot of concrete, and it was always thermals, so you could get up there and you could get thermal flights,
Sure.
you know. And there were a couple of retired electrical engineers from Canada that were there also, and these 2 fellows were single, and they'd fly their glider at Pembina, or they'd go to New Zealand for the winter. They were really some interesting fellows.
Well, Harding, I'd like to get some photos of you out by the B-17, and then Michael's going to go for a ride. Is that what I heard?
Yep.
All right, so we'll do that. But before we close, thank you for your service to the country, and thank you for joining us here at the Fargo Air Museum.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Great.
Meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing this song. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry.
Tomorrow, when the world is free, the shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. The shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in Just you